Yo, what is up guys, it Ghost here, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, will Battlefield 6 finally manage to knock Call of Duty off of the top spot this time around? Also, the preloads have already begun, so wherever you are right now, you should be able to preload Battlefield 6, and the game has already been nominated for multiple awards at the Golden Joystick Awards. As always, if you guys enjoy the content here on the channel and want to stay up to date with everything surrounding the Battlefield franchise, this is the place to be. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and as always, thank you guys so much for the support. So if you weren't already aware, and I'm sure most of you are, the game is going to be launching on October the 10th or 11th based on where you are in the world, and here is a handy map showing exactly what sort of time you can be expecting. If you've also not heard already, you can now preload the game, so even though it's a week till release, you've got plenty of time to get it loaded up. For me, the file size was about 24 or so gigabytes on Steam. I know people over on the EA app have seen screenshots of it being a lot larger than that, maybe 50, 60, 70 gigabytes, and I believe the reason for that is down to compression, so I wouldn't worry too much. You're probably not going to have to download a massive patch on day one, but there probably will be like some sort of a day one patch there. Also, if you are a PC player and you haven't done this already, I would recommend going and downloading the newest graphics driver just so that you get the best possible performance. Now, even though it's not been released yet, Battlefield 6 is already up for a couple of awards. And this one is at the Golden Joystick Awards, so they're up for Best Multiplayer Game, and alongside them here for nominees, we've got Split Fiction, Mario Kart World, Elden Ring Night Rain, Rematch, which is apparently some kind of football game, can't say I've heard of that one, and then Peak. So amongst those contenders there, I actually think they have a pretty good chance of winning. Of course, Split Fiction was an incredible game, I've heard. I haven't played it yet, but it scored very, very highly. So in terms of co-op, you know, technically it's a multiplayer game, but I kind of feel like it should be in a different category because, you know, Battlefield 6 is like a big multiplayer game. Split Fiction's just like co-op. So I suppose they could be beaten by that game. And then the other award that they're up for is Best Audio Design. And the other nominees here are Donkey Kong Bonanza, Ghost of Your Toy, Death Stranding 2, Chronos, The New Dawn, and then 2 Point Museum. Now, I haven't really played any of those other games, but I can vouch for Battlefield 6, and its audio design is very, very good indeed, although I do think the footsteps still need a bit of work. Now, talking of contenders for the top spot, along with Battlefield 6, it's that time of year again, guys. It's the time where Call of Duty showcase their latest offering. The closed beta for Black Ops 7 is currently underway. I haven't played it yet, and normally I do jump into at least the open beta, or, you know, if I can get my hands on a key, I'll play the closed beta. This year, though, I just feel like there's almost no point trying out the game, because I know exactly what to expect, and every time I do this, and, you know, I feel like as a predominantly Battlefield-focused channel, I sort of owe it to you guys to take a look at the main contender in the space that Battlefield is in. But this time around, I feel like I can pretty much tell you everything about what this game is going to be like without even playing it myself. I'm that confident that they aren't going to have made any significant changes, that skill-based matchmaking is still going to be in there. We're still going to be getting the same, you know, very frantic, short 10 or 15 minute rounds there with a lot of action and very little downtime, and there's going to be very crazy movement. And I'd say this time around, they've probably amped that up a lot. I think there's like jetpacks in the game and wall running, and it's going to be maybe a little bit more Titanfall-esque. So if that's something that you like, and you like Call of Duty games, then maybe that's something for you and you'll enjoy it. But if you're maybe like me and you're hoping that they're going to really change the way that Call of Duty games play in a big way, well, I wouldn't hold your breath. Now, the big question on everybody's lips, I think, is this going to be the year where Battlefield can finally topple Call of Duty? Or not topple them, but let's say top them. And there is a recent article I want to draw your guys' attention to from thegamebusiness.com. And specifically, I want to show you guys some interesting statistics when it comes to Call of Duty and EA's new Battlefield 6. So according to Circana's retail tracking service, for the period of January 1995 through to July 2025, Battlefield is the number 16 biggest game franchise in US history of full game dollar sales. It's behind Need for Speed, but ahead of The Sims. Call of Duty, however, is number 1. But bear in mind, that is overall all of those years, all the way from 1995 until now, so 30 years. The biggest Battlefield US launch is 2016's Battlefield 1, slightly ahead of Battlefield 4. It was the number 2 game of the year in the US in terms of full game dollar sales. What was number 1? It was Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. So even there, when that was EA's most successful Battlefield game, they still couldn't quite get the top spot from Call of Duty. Now, 2018's Battlefield 5 was only the number 16 game of the year in the US. Battlefield 2042 actually performed better at number 5, believe it or not, but it was actually behind 2 Call of Duty games, Vanguard at number 1, and then Black Ops Cold War at number 3. Call of Duty was the best-selling game franchise of 2024 in the US, which was the 16th consecutive year that it achieved that, and games like GTA 5, Red Dead Redemption 2, and Hogwarts Legacy that previously finished as the year's best-selling individual game, but as a franchise, so including multiple titles, Call of Duty was number 1. So in conclusion, Circana data shows that although Battlefield got close once 9 years ago, Call of Duty is the dominant power in the US. Now that being said, that is all in the past, and as we know, Battlefield 6 has been seeing a lot of hype around it right now. People seem to really be rallying around this title, not just Battlefield players or people coming back to the Battlefield franchise after having been off-put by Battlefield 2042, but also players from other franchises like Call of Duty. And here we've got some interesting stats from Battlefield 6's beta. So they say that Ampere estimates there were 22 million people who played the Battlefield 6 beta, whereas Newzoo has that number slightly higher at 25 million. According to Newzoo, the peak daily active user number for Battlefield 6 was 10.4 million. By comparison, the Battlefield 2042 beta peaked at 5.1 million. The total number of beta players for 2042 was 5.7 million, Newzoo estimates, which is well below the 24.7 million for Battlefield 6. And a quick note here, the Battlefield 2042 beta was just 4 days versus the 8 days for Battlefield 6. So maybe the numbers are a little bit skewed there. You know, if 2042 would have had a longer beta, those numbers would have been slightly higher, but certainly nowhere near the 24.7 mil that BF6 saw. Video Game Insight says that Battlefield 6 crossed 2 million Steam wishlists within weeks, and that number is currently on 2.4 million. That's 3 times the level of Call of Duty. Ampere estimates that the game has 1.7 million Steam pre-orders already. For July 2025, Ampere looked at the share of Call of Duty players who also played the Battlefield 6 beta, and whether they went back to Call of Duty afterwards. For this group of players, and this is purely people who played both games, 29% on Xbox didn't return to Call of Duty in August, 24% on PlayStation didn't return, and 48% on Steam didn't return. Therefore, Ampere predicts that disruption for Call of Duty this year will likely be more severe on Steam than consoles. So in conclusion here, what do these numbers mean? Well, Call of Duty's figures aren't telling us much. You know, it's a steady performer with a large audience base, but its annual cadence means it's hard to judge the level of excitement for this year's entry. However, Battlefield 6 clearly has huge momentum. Ampere believes the game will sell 5 million units in its first week, and the excitement for the game is growing as we near its October the 10th launch. It's pretty much guaranteed a big day one, and if it can deliver a strong start, that will likely have a knock-on effect on Call of Duty, which arrives 1 month later. And I really think there's something to this. Call of Duty is set right now to release in November. So if you're really stuck into Battlefield 6, you sunk your teeth in, and let's not forget guys, they're releasing Season 1 of Battlefield 6 on the 28th of October. It's also rumored that they're going to be releasing the Battle Royale. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I've not looked up the date, but I think 11th of November is when Black Ops 7 releases. The game doesn't really seem to be doing, anything too new or innovative. It's really one of those titles that even if you're a COD player, you could easily just skip that one and be like, I'll play the next one. Whereas Battlefield 6, it feels like much more of a bigger occasion. This is just a moment that doesn't come along for Battlefield games all too often. I think it's clear that this one is going to be a banger, And I think people don't want to miss out on that. You know, I think they realize that there's a moment happening here in gaming history, and Battlefield players are finally getting a game that they like. But how big of an impact is it going to be? Well, Battlefield and Call of Duty are both military shooters, but their central appeal is different. Battlefield is about large maps, vehicle combat and team-based battles. Call of Duty is more close quarters, fast-paced, and with smaller maps. As Just van Drunen, sorry if I butchered the name there, said on the show this week, comparing Call of Duty to Battlefield is like comparing American football to soccer, or football as we call it. They may look the same, but they're fundamentally different sports. Battlefield does have some more Call of Duty-like elements this time around, and they are clearly targeting similar audiences in general, but if you prefer the Call of Duty style experience, then Battlefield is unlikely to be a satisfying alternative. So I think that's also very obvious that this time around EA have really tried to create a game that caters to a much wider audience, to those Call of Duty players, and really just everybody, right? You can see from the map choices, we've got small maps, we've got medium maps, we've got large maps, we've got a variety of different vehicles on all of the maps, and you can tell that a lot of like core Battlefield players aren't too happy about the smaller maps because they like big maps in their Battlefield games, right? That is what Battlefield is all about. But the reason that EA and DICE and everyone are putting these smaller maps in there is to try to appease the massive audience that plays Call of Duty and other titles that they want to capture a chunk of. Are they going to be able to do that? Are they really going to be able to take the top spot of Call of Duty? There is a lot of hype around Battlefield 6, but we can't let that dwarf the sheer numbers that Call of Duty pulls in. Like, there are just a lot of players who play COD year after year, like, no matter what. Don't ask me why they do it. I personally will never understand how you can want a new game like that every year, although from rumours that we've heard, it sounds like Byron Beatty and co want to take Battlefield in the same direction with yearly releases, so I guess we'll see how that turns out. But I would be very interested to hear what you guys think on this. Do you think Battlefield is going to top Call of Duty this year, like in terms of total games sold, in terms of maximum player peak numbers, and all of those sorts of interesting statistics? I'll definitely be doing a follow-up on this, by the way, after the game launches. I think it's going to be a really exciting day one, a really exciting weekend, so stay tuned to the channel. As always, I will have a lot of videos on Battlefield 6 guides, and I'll continue to cover the news for you guys, so subscribing is always appreciated, as is leaving a like if you enjoyed today's video. So thank you guys for watching, hope you have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next one.